There have been chaotic scenes at the Rafah border crossing between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. A few hours ago, Hamas gunmen stormed the guardroom on the Palestinian side. The fighting erupted after Palestinian Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh was stopped from returning to Gaza with what's believed to have been $35 million that he'd collected on a foreign fundraising tour. Israeli Defense Forces had earlier ordered the crossing to be shut to enforce, they say, the international funding sanctions against the Hamas-controlled government. Well, an international embargo to stop funds reaching the Hamas-led Palestinian government forced politicians to resort to desperate measures in recent months. High-ranking officials have been known to hand-carry huge sums of cash into Gaza in order to pay the wages of some 160,000 employees. Well, in July, the Palestinian Foreign Minister Mahmoud al-Zahar crossed the point along with 12 bags containing $20 million. 4 months later, 2 Hamas Legislative Council members crossed the point along with $4 million. And later that month, the Foreign Minister al-Zahar again attempted to take $20 million into Gaza. The Israeli authorities, however, stopped him by closing the border. According to the planning minister, Samir Abu Aisha, $69 million in cash has been carried into Gaza by Palestinian ministers and members of parliament so far this year. In just a moment, we'll be going live to Gaza. But first, this background report from Nadim Baba.
Gunshot at the Rafah crossing. 2,000 Hamas supporters rushed to the border point between Gaza and Egypt after Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh's journey came to an abrupt halt. As bystanders scrambled to safety, 2 Hamas fighters were wounded in the clashes with Palestinian security forces. Ismail Haniyeh was reportedly prevented from entering Gaza on the orders of Israel's defense minister Amir Peretz. Israeli security sources say they suspect he was planning to bring in millions of dollars donated by Iran. Haniyeh's returning from a 2-week trip taking in countries such as Qatar and Sudan as well as Iran, trying to raise money for an administration under pressure from an international embargo. He got assurances of up to $350 million for next year, but the Israeli claims have yet to be confirmed. For now, the Palestinian premier remains stuck in Egyptian territory across the border from where hundreds of Hamas supporters gathered to welcome him back. The standoff could incite more anger on the streets of Gaza, already the scene of unprecedented factional fighting. Nadim Baba, Al Jazeera.
Well, we're going to try and unravel exactly what's been happening during the course of the evening. We've just received this photograph of the Palestinian Prime Minister, Ismail Haniyeh, looking rather dejected at the Rafah border crossing, along with some of his staff. They're having tried to have come back from Egypt on a fundraising tour with $35 million in cash for the Palestinian people when the border crossing was closed. And the EU monitors there were evacuated following a gun battle. One of them talking to us now from Gaza City, Maria Telleria, spokesperson for those EU monitors at the Rafah border crossing. Very good of you to talk to us tonight. We've received some reports, confusing, so perhaps you can help us to work out exactly what's happening, that there may have been a second gunfight this evening with members of Hamas firing across the border into Egypt. Do you know anything about that?
Okay, I can say that our monitors are not at Rafah at present moment because they were evacuated at 5 o'clock in the evening. So I cannot confirm this information because no one of our monitor is now present at Rafah.
Will you be reopening the crossing anytime soon?
We hope so, because besides this problem, there are many Palestinian people trying to leave or entering Gaza. I can tell you that at this moment, we are still deciding if we are going back tonight or if we are going back tomorrow morning. But the decision has not yet been taken.
And without the border crossing open, clearly the Palestinian Prime Minister Haniyeh cannot get from Egypt into Gaza.
According to the agreement, for the Rafah crossing point being open, is absolutely necessary the presence of the European Union Border Assistance Mission.
At one point, I'd like you to clear up, if you would, for us. We're talking about a crossing between Gaza and Egypt, which was ordered to be closed by Israel. How can that happen?
Okay, I think that this question is better to ask to Israel's people rather than to us. We are a monitoring and verifying mission, and we are in charge to monitor. We have not any executive power in the opening or the close. So I think this question is better to address the Israeli or even Palestinian people.
All right, well, we'll try and do that. Maria Teleria, thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Gaza, talk to Noor Odeh, our correspondent there, try and unravel some of this with her. It's been a very busy night for you, Noor, and it continues to be so. Bring us up to date with the very latest that you know.
Well, we know that a gun battle erupted when hundreds, at least 2,000 Hamas supporters, some armed, stormed into the Rafah crossing and began firing mostly in the air, but also towards the Egyptian side. Warning shots from the Egyptian side were fired in order to prevent these masses from approaching more and trying to cross the border into the Egyptian side and to basically bring the Prime Minister into the Gaza Strip by force. As Maria Teleria, the spokesperson for the European observers, said, the observers were evacuated earlier in the evening, so the crossing is officially closed. Five people were at least 5 people were hurt in this gun battle. The guards entrusted with protecting the crossing, the Rafah crossing, and with making sure that everything goes right and that the operations resume or go on as normal in the Rafah crossing are members of the Presidential Guard. This was part of an agreement with Israel brokered by U.S. Secretary of State Rice. These guards have taken every measure possible, according to eyewitnesses, not to fire back at those who are firing. They're firing in the air. They're trying to clear the crossing from all those who have entered it. Armed men and regular people, women and elderly alike, to at least give a chance to the monitors to weigh in whether they will return to the crossing or not this evening.
Noor, it's not as if the money left behind will not reach the Palestinian people if Mr. Haniyeh doesn't bring it in, because it can get to them via the Palestinian president, as I understand it. It's simply that Mr. Haniyeh would not be allowed to bring it in.
That is correct. There are two things. There is a mechanism set by the quartet made up of the United States, the European Union, the United Nations, and the Russian Federation. And this mechanism was set up after the embargo was imposed on the government formed by Hamas. And it basically dispenses mainly humanitarian assistance, independent of the Palestinian Authority, of the Palestinian government, made up of Hamas members. There's also a mechanism through which the Arab League has been working, which is to divert money to the Palestinian Authority through the President's office. The President's office then deposits the money in the Ministry of Finance in order for it to go through the proper channels in accordance with the Palestinian law.
Noor, as you've been reporting over the last 4 or 5 days, these are very difficult, lawless times in Gaza. How much is this going to add to the sum of difficulties being experienced there between Fatah and Hamas and the people in general?
Well, what has happened today at the crossing indicates two things. One is that the Gaza Strip remains under full Israeli control. Israel, although it's not present through its military in the Gaza Strip, still controls the crossing at Rafah and a lot of other aspects of daily life in the Gaza Strip. It decided today that the Prime Minister couldn't enter the Gaza Strip. So this is one thing that the Palestinians are acutely aware of, and it only adds to their conviction that Israel is not leaving them alone, as it were, is not ending its occupation as it claims to have done in the Gaza Strip. Another thing that the Palestinians are experiencing, which was very evident today in the storming of the Rafah crossing, is the increasing lawlessness and the lack of trust that Palestinians have on the street among each other. Hamas supporters didn't have enough trust in the system to wait and see how the Prime Minister would be able to go through the crossing through official channels, although the news came out that President Abbas was doing his best and was trying to mediate to allow the Prime Minister to enter, to mediate with Israel, to make sure that the Prime Minister and his delegation enter the Gaza Strip today.
Good to hear from you, Noor Odeh in Gaza. Thank you very much.